The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliate stations coast to coast present
Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue.
The 0-2, swing and a miss, strike three, blew it past it.
Discussing baseball, good drinks, and food.
And you got your honey mustard?
I love mustard.
With Ted Hicks, Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell.
Well, big deal. I am very professional.
Every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on the Happy Hour Network.
And welcome to Baseball Beer and Barbecue with Todd and Lee. Ted is out today. Like us on the Facebook, follow us on the Twitter at Baseball Beer BBQ, and read us on our blog site, baseballbeerbbq.com. And get even more info at thehappyhournetwork.com. We'll be joined in just a little bit by Brent Cardy, host, founder, producer of The Cardy Show on MLBHotCorner.com. to talk Blue Jays and the first week of Major League Baseball, and possibly Todd has a WWE question for him. Hopefully I said that right, WWE. I don't really know much about wrestling, so if I screwed that up, I apologize. You can also hear us on NGSC Sports, I-95 Sports Network, Beck Sports Page, RF Sports, XRP Radio, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Arena Sports Network, most of the radio stations in Kazakhstan from what I understand, and we are huge in Djibouti. So, Todd, how are you?
Huge in Djibouti? Really? Did you go there? Did you really go there, sir? Yes, we are huge in Djibouti, and I am well. And you know what can happen if you are in Kazakhstan, and you are one of our several listeners listening on your laptop, and your laptop suddenly goes on the fritz. Well, you can't go to Computer Repair NC because that's one place they won't serve. But you could send it to Computer Repair NC at CJ Computers NC on the Twitter, 919-653-64. Why did I say 6496? What's wrong with me? It's not 6496. It's 8496.
What's the phone number again?
It is 919-653-849.
I wonder if they get
Computer Repair NC.
I wonder if they. That was such a long telling of the phone number, but I wonder if they get any business from us doing that. I mean, if just one person calls in today, just mention this code. No, I don't know, but it.
Mention Djibouti.
That's right. Hopefully they get people. Hey, I heard about this on Baseball Beer Bar. Oh, we'll give you 10% off. That's not true. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that would be cool.
Yeah, go to Computer Repair NC, mention Djibouti, and they'll probably charge you 20% more.
That's right.
Or have you arrested?
Djibouti. Oh, you do have junk in the trunk, sir. Yes. So, baseball. So the Dodgers,
yes.
Of course, last night was a really fun night because they had a rookie pitcher going. I don't know if you saw this.
Yes, I did.
It was fun because it had 5 outs from getting a no-hitter. Of course, it took him out of the game. His name's Stripling. And then, of course, he leaves, and the Dodgers end up losing the game 3-2. Now, he was tiring. I'm not saying he would have finished the no-hitter because we all know the last 3 outs are not even 5, but the last 3 outs are tough enough to get into the ninth inning. So, but the Giants do win 3-2 over the Dodgers. They've now won the first 2 of that series. It's funny because there's been so many games. The Giants had 2 hits and won the game 3-2, and there's been so many games this year already where the team that has won has gotten like the Mariners' first game with Felix going, right? The team had 1 hit. It's just, I wonder if the whole season is just going to be kind of crazy. Of course, Ken Griffey Jr. threw out the first pitch for the Mariners in their home opener last night. Still ended up losing 3-2 to the Athletics. So Mariners are 2-2 on the season. Dodgers are 3-2. But your Detroit Tigers, unbeaten at this point, 162-0 is not out of the question. How do you think the Tigers?
Not out of the question. They will go 36-5. They will go 36-5 to break their previous record, and then they will coast their way to I don't know, 87-win season. I mean, yeah, I'm happy so far. I mean, I'm not, but as we have said many times, you just got to temper the expectations. I mean, they're not going to go 162 now. They may go 116-2, but they're not going to go 162 now. So. and nobody panics because you're 2-2. Although it is interesting because depending on how your record is, and I don't have the stats in front of me, and I should obviously, but Bill James did a study many years ago, probably 2 or 3, and your record in your first 10 games really can be a pretty good indicator of how your season's going to go. Not all the time, but in aggregate, it is. If you suck in the first 10 games, odds are you're going to suck for the rest of the 152. So having a good start is important. But I mean, the number of teams that went like 3-7 that went on to even play 500 ball was minuscule, and it's surprising that it really did make that big of a difference. Again, individual teams can be very different, and 2-2, big deal, especially when you lose a game like last night, like the Dodgers did, or losing a game in which your starter gave up one hit. That's not going to happen too often. So. But that's one of the reasons I like baseball, is because it can happen. It's just one of those weird, kind of almost impossibly weird quirks. It's like, did you ever think you'd see this happen? No, I never thought I'd see that happen. Well, just wait a while and it'll happen because it's baseball. Like what's happening now with that kid in Colorado.
Well, we'll get to the story about Trevor's story in just 1 minute, right after these messages. No, I'm just kidding. So, well, let me. You mentioned not panicking. Should the Philadelphia Phillies fans be panicking at this point, though?
Yes, they should be terrified. Oh my God, we may win more than 30 games. Yeah, of course it goes the other way too. Just because you get off to a hot start doesn't mean you can keep it up, because we've all been there in our personal lives. We know how that goes. So. The Phillies are aging, and eventually their stamina will give way, and they will lose 117 games. So they won't lose 107.
But
that
they
would
may.
Be awesome. That would be awesome.
I mean, they're not that good.
No, they're no. Oh, don't say that. They are certainly good enough to lose 117 games. I'm sure they have the talent to do that. That's the kind of stuff. It's like I hate to see that for fans of any team to be, just. Well, I take that back. The Lakers kind of make me happy. So with their record, it had to be about the same thing. So that's okay. Lakers fans deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But Cardinals are 1-3, and you mentioned no reason to panic because now they're in a series with the Braves. So they'll have an even record after that's over. Braves are 0-3. The Twins are 0-4. I mean, it's obviously it's when I remember growing up and in the early 1700s, and I remember thinking I really wish this Colonial team would do really well. But no, it was always fun to see a team start off at because a lot of times it happens where teams start off 9-0, 10-0. I mean, it doesn't go much past that normally. I think what's the record, 13-0 or something like that. But what did the Tigers, even that 35-5 start? What did they start off? They started off without losing a game for a while, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was. It was 11-0 or something like that. But that 35-5 start was just, and as it's rolling on, and the team, as I remember vaguely, the team was just saying, it can't last, but you just go with it, and you just but you feel like it's going to go on forever, because winning attitude gets it, and when you get to that point, why would you think you're ever going to lose again? I mean, going back to basketball again, the Warriors is like, and now of course they're in the rough patch, but for a while there, it's like, it doesn't matter what we do, we're going to win. It's just a bizarre thing where, I'm sure in some Japanese baseball game, there's something where their biorhythms were all just like massively interwoven for those 40 games. It's like, well, that's why they didn't lose. It's because their cycles were just like perfect. Really weird that they do that.
35-5 start is really, you think about it, it's really not that good of a record. I mean, it only means they would go 140-20. I mean, that's not really that good nowadays. I mean, it's 100, because they probably would lose those other two games and they'd only be 140-22.
You're correct.
So the standings right now, and I really wish I could pull up the wild card standings. I don't seem to be able to pull those up because I think that's important. We should start looking at that 5 games into the season. But the Orioles are in the lead. Still haven't lost. The Orioles are 4-0. Surprising us all. Run differential of 10. A -10. They haven't lost a game. It's interesting. So Red Sox have only lost one, so off to a good start. And then we have the Tigers and the Twins. Tigers currently up on the Twins 3.5 games after 4 for the Twins. That's always fun to point out.
And that's where it will stay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the Tigers could surprise. Then the Pirates are 3 up over the Cardinals. So the Cubs 3-1. Getting off to a good start, solid start, as well as the Pirates, because they're both good teams. But we found out yesterday Kyle Schwarber, outfield. Now, is he a great outfielder? No, but he's got a ton of power, obviously, as we saw in the postseason last year, 5 home runs in 9 postseason games, to set a franchise record for the Cubs, which means absolutely nothing because most of the time the Cubs didn't make the playoffs when we've had expanded series. But, tore his ACL and MCL. How big of a loss do you think that is for the Cubs?
I think it'll hurt him moving on, but like you said, not a great outfielder. Hits for a ton of power, but they have a ton of power on that. I think it would have hurt more if he'd been like a table setter type, because that's what they really need, and they really haven't had that much. So I think they can weather this storm. I mean, I'm not saying no big deal. I mean, they'll just win just as many games. It's like that hurts them, but these guys are coming from lower in the organization. I don't know specifically, who is going to move up and not take his place, but just, as far as fill a roster spot, et cetera. But I think they'll be able to handle it. And it's not like they lost Jake Arrieta, so that would hurt.
Jake Arrieta, the Cy Young Award winner from the National League last year, who could honestly say this?
The very best at what he does each and every day of his life.
So,
Quite true. Yeah, it's going to hurt, but I don't think it really changes my expectations for him by a whole lot, honestly. Maybe 2 games they'll drop in the standings over that. And in that division, that can make a difference for sure.
Could be huge, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because they'll still win 102, but 2 games means they're out of the playoffs.
Yeah, seriously.
It's really strange.
That would be amazing. Like if all 3 of those teams won over 100. It's like they went there far last year. It's like, why
they
not?
Were pretty close.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
So the Dodgers started off the season. Now, of course, they've lost their last 2, but they started off the season shutting out the Padres in 3 straight games. Outscored them in that series 25-0. Of course, what happens? The Dodgers go on to lose their next 2 to the Giants, who are a good team, and the Padres score 13 yesterday and win the game. But again, that's baseball. But
exactly.
But Trevor Story is another big story. Obviously, to start the season, 6 home runs in his first 4 games. First player to ever do that. Rookie hit the first rookie to actually hit 3 home runs in his first 3 games. Major League Baseball. Trevor Story, I think it's funny because we had a Rockies guest on. I don't even think we asked about Trevor Story. So we once again look stupid. But how big of
we did mention Story, but it was not like.
Did we?
It was just like.
I'll say you
more
did.
Of a thing. It's like, well, should they bring him up?
I'll say you did it. You're smart enough to mention Story. I don't think I mentioned. I don't even think I thought about Trevor Story.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The only reason I mentioned Story is because, Reyes is suspended, so they've got to have somebody. Will they use Story, or are they going to leave him down there? It wasn't like, wow, Story's going to explode. It was like, yeah, expectations are big for Story, but yeah. Oh, and as far as
that's right. Sorry to interrupt you, but that was your question. We did ask about him, and now he's gotten off to the start. So when Reyes actually does come back, assuming, what are we going to see?
Not Reyes. Not Reyes. Because obviously he'll cool off. He's a rookie. I mean, he'll probably drop down to a pace where if he plays 162, he'll only hit like 210 homers instead of 243. But I mean, and like he said, it's like we're not going to see Reyes anyway. He's done, and he, he wasn't saying it's like, oh, Story's going to destroy it and blah blah blah. It's like he expected big things from him, but nobody expected this. I mean. I'm not even sure which team he played for last year, but so I don't know the manager that he played for. And yes, I know he was in the Rockies organization, but I'm not going to look it up. But I'm sure they didn't talk to him. He said, put this kid in, he'll give you 6 homers by Saturday. It's like, he probably didn't say that. So,
no, because he said we'll give you six homers before Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, kid came in with big expectations, but this is nuts. And again, this is part of what makes baseball fun. I could care less about the Rockies, which means, yes, I could care less about the Rockies, so I care a little bit about them because they're a baseball team. That's the only reason I care about them. But what a great story. Would I be happier if he played for the Tigers? Yes, I would be happier if he played for the Tigers. But it's a great tale, a great discussion. It's a great topic. I'm tired of.
You're trying to look for something other than the word story, right? That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was trying to do too. I was like,
it's hard. It's really difficult. But it's right there. It's in Djibouti, so you got to go with it. So what can I say?
That's true. So the Royals and Mets started the season for each of those teams at 8 p.m. last Sunday. But first of all, how do you feel about I'll say this. I don't like the intra-league start. I think it's silly. But if you're going to start the season with the two teams that were in the World Series last year, which is what they did, and they did it intentionally, and it's fine, why not have that be the first pitch of the season instead of the third game of the season already? I just don't understand that opening day philosophy.
I don't either. It makes no sense. I mean, I understand, okay, well, it's prime time and blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, then make that the only game. You know, at least we didn't have the debacle of let's play a game in Australia or Japan, and it'll be live at 4:30 in the morning, because that's great for baseball, and that's the first. You know, it's basically let's have an exhibition series, but it's not exhibition because it counts. But you know, you guys are going to be playing jet lag like hell, and oh man, never, please, never, ever do that again. But yeah, that was stupid, and we've talked about the only people who don't know how much we hate interleague play are people who haven't been born yet. So, unborn baby, when you listen to this podcast in about 6 years, you will have known because you've listened to other podcasts. But if this is the first one, interleague play is bad. It's really bad to kick off the season. But exactly, if you're going to do it, if you're going to match up the World Series competitors, and that wants to be your storyline for your season, story, I worked it in again. Go ahead, have it be the first series of the season, but it needs to be the first pitch. That's just
right.
Baseball gets a lot of things right. They do get a lot of things right. Happily, our new Lord of Baseball backed away from the horrible suggestion that they put the DH in the National League instead of making the right decision and getting rid of the damn DH. If you're going to do something, do that. But personally, I like it because I like the fact that the games are different. You just leave it. That's fine. But yeah, that was a really bad choice. Well, let's have it be the third game. It's dumb.
Yeah, and it's a good point. At least baseball has a good manager. It could be Gary Bettman that's running baseball, which...
Oh, my God. We probably would have a work stoppage already.
Probably. So moving on from baseball, and again, we'll talk to Brent Cardy in just about a little over 10 minutes, just about the Blue Jays and the first week of baseball as well. But some other news, of course, as anybody knows who listens to this show or any of the other shows that I'm unfortunate for you listener on, but there was I'm a Tar Heels fan, and there was a basketball game on Monday. What's that?
Was that English? I'm not sure that was English.
It was.
Just say the word story.
It wasn't English because of our listeners in Djibouti. Sometimes you have to throw them a bone. But there was a basketball game on Monday. It was in Djibouti-ish, whatever that is. I'm sure. I actually should look up and see. It's not. They're not a race. It's not like, there's African Americans, there's African descents, and then there's European descents, and then there's Asians and Aboriginals, and then there's the Djibouti race. Although maybe they are a race, and if they are, I apologize. Anyway, we're totally getting off script. I'm even sorry I brought up Djibouti. But, yes, there was a basketball game on Monday night featuring Villanova, the Wildcats versus the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. The Tar Heels lost, came down obviously to the last, literally the last shot of the game because time ran out. Villanova hits 3-pointer to win the game. Was I upset that the Tar Heels lost? Yeah, of course. It's my favorite team. But taking a step back from that, college basketball kind of needed that kind of game. Did they not? Because, college basketball, you have people leaving after the first year. It's really almost a watered-down sport at this point. So, fantastic college basketball game. Got people talking about it, even if they weren't Tar Heels or Wildcat fans. What do you think about it?
It is. You're right. They did need that, and it was a great tournament because you had crazy upsets, which you always get. But to have a classic game like that to wrap it up, and have two teams that going into it, a lot of people had North Carolina in the Final Four. A lot of people had Nova. I mean, they were a number 2 seed, but it's not like, oh, they came out of nowhere. So, yeah, I mean, it was a good matchup. It followed the expectations, and yeah, it was a terrific game. I just laugh every time I just hear Villanova, because down here I live near the West Palm Beaches area, and apparently Mr. Massimino has retired to the area, and there's an advertisement for a sub shop down there, and I'm not going to mention it because the only people we push is CJ Computer Repair. But he was, here going back and forth and talking about who's the most famous. Oh, Raleigh, you're the most famous guy you're the most famous guy. And Raleigh has been, no, you're the most famous one. It's like, oh my God, it's so bizarre. It's just crazy. So, I mean, every time I hear Villanova, and probably most people think of Massimino, but to me, it's sad that he couldn't go up and be there for it, because apparently his wife was ill and couldn't make it. And hopefully she is fine at this point. But that's part of college basketball. So when I saw Villanova in North Carolina, it's like, how old school can you get? Well, we talked about it. I mean, it's really and I would have rather seen North Carolina win, but it's cool that one of the old school teams won. I mean, obviously North Carolina's old school, but they never really went away other than, one little blip here. So and to me, it's kind of a cool story. There it is again. That 6 homes that Villanova came through and won the championship, because I think that helps connect college basketball when, well, certainly people of our age thought, man, this is the best game on the planet. Mm-hmm. Because you could argue that it was the best game on the planet back then. There was no saying it's the best game now. And it's exactly because of what you said. There's so many one-and-dones, and it's like, how can you connect? It's like they barely get out of junior high, and they play a season, and they're gone, it seems like. They don't even have a chance to know who they are. Yeah. So it's a pretty cool connection to the heyday of college basketball, and maybe they'll be lucky and they'll have. I mean, there were a ton of great games in the tournament, but overall, and then you had the blowouts and blah blah blah. So what a great finish to it.
I like how
lovely.
Go ahead. Sorry.
A lovely story. A lovely story for all those college basketball fans out there who've needed something like this.
Yeah. And I like how they did the intros of the 2 championship teams, because they had, we've got the 85 winners and represented by Ed Pickney, and in the stands, there's Ed Pickney. Mm-hmm. And then we've got the 81 North Carolina champions represented by Michael Jordan and James Worthy, Sam Burke. I'm joking, but that team did have Michael Jordan, James Worthy, and Sam. Yeah. So but anyway, the Masters is also taking place right now. I mean, a great pairing. If you're a golf fan, Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy is the pairing going into today, which is just phenomenal, because you really have arguably the two best golfers in the world right now. But Spieth over McIlroy currently by 1 stroke. Let me see. I don't think it's updated, but by 1 stroke. And then Denny Lee, Scott Piercy. Trevor Story, amazingly, only 2 shots back. What are you going to do today before the game? I'm playing in this little golf tournament. So, and then Trevor Story just hit a 600-yard fairway. Hole in one. Big hitter. So, exactly. So if you're interested in that Masters tournament, that's a great pairing to start today. I mean, it's really good the way it's set up, although it's still chilly. In Augusta, it's really. I'm in Tennessee, and we've had a really chilly time, windy, chilly, but Augusta, 12-mile-per-hour winds. It'll be interesting to see, how the tournament ends up playing out, because still Spieth with the lead, 4 under, which isn't a huge number at this point. It'll be interesting to see how it finishes. Tomorrow is supposed to be beautiful, so hopefully we'll have a. You want it to come down to golf, just like in any other tournament. You don't want it to come down to the weather. The weather is really why this person won. Kind of thing. Yeah. So Yeah, it's important. So just like if you have, we're tennis fans, if you have Wimbledon, it's windy and rainy or about to rain, and it's like, oh, you know what, Djokovic slipped and fell, and that's why I didn't, kind of thing. So,
that's
anyway.
a really good point, talking about the weather, just because unlike in any other sporting event, everyone has the same weather. Not true in golf, because it depends on when you tee off, when you hit. Because wasn't Spieth they were talking about that he was like really hoping to beat the winds coming, because the weather, the front was coming in almost while he was playing. So, until weather can play a huge role in it, because it can be very different for two different golfers, unless they happen to be paired. So it's not, everyone has the same conditions. Not so in golf, usually not. So, and especially yesterday. And today will be the same thing, I'm sure. So it'll be interesting to see how that factors into it. Hopefully it won't, like you said, because it would be really sucky. It's like, well, it was only 6 miles an hour when he was playing, and then he teed off an hour and a half later, and it was like, it was sleeting, and he still managed to get. It's like, you don't want to see that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like and Lee Vowell approaches the hole, and they're going to allow him to pick the ball up after he has 12 putted this green. So.
What are you? Lee.
Oh, thank you.
L.
Lee is waving.
What's your name? Lee L.
Lee is unlike Tom Watson. Lee is involved in his first and final Masters. So,
yeah, how weird is Tom Watson?
That's right, Tom Watson
hitting much better than Bubba Watson.
Well,
that's not supposed to happen.
Tom's done. They're both done. So,
anyway,
so
better than Bubba.
Well, yeah, that's true. Bubba's a good guy. Yeah, people seem to like Bubba. So anyway, Donnie Tyndall, former coach of the University of Tennessee, volunteers after 1 year. Of course, he was a coach at wherever he came from, and then at Morehead State before that. And so he got a 10-year show cause, which is crazy because I've never heard the amount. I mean, they must have really found some stuff on him, but it's interesting. So I'm thinking that we may have our guest on the line, I'm hoping, Brent Cardy. We now welcome Brent Cardy to the show. Brent is the host, producer, founder of The Cardy Show at MLBHotCorner.com. Brent, hopefully this is you. If it's not, it's embarrassing. But Brent, how are you today?
Hey, boys, what's going on? Good, how are you?
We're doing well.
Great, Brent.
Thanks for taking us away from the golf talk. Hold on a second. Thanks for taking us away from the golf talk, because both of us are like, we're talking a little golf. And I suck at golf, and I really know nothing about it. So this is perfect timing for you to be on.
Yeah. Don't take a snooze or anything. Good to be back, guys. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to continue with the golf questions by talking about WrestleMania. So
perfect.
WrestleMania, thumbs up or thumbs down, sir?
Thumbs sideways for a couple of reasons. Number one, I gotta give it to the guys that wrestled their behinds off in the ring. I mean, they did the best they can with what they were given. Thumbs down definitely to the booking and the storytelling of it. When you look at the execution, especially of Roman Reigns. Yeah, I mean, this is his third shot at being the top tier babyface of the company, and again, not going so well. You look at the next night on Monday Night Raw, and AJ Styles is now the number one contender. And, you got to believe that hopefully Reigns is in line for a heel turn. Going a bit of a heel run as a champion, I think would be a good idea. But again, I mean, how do you tell that story? How do you align him to the authority? And then, you look at some of the other stuff, at WrestleMania, Kalisto and Ryback. That was a giant snooze fest. Usos and the Dudley Boys, should have been off the hook, boring, And then you look at, the Intercontinental Championship ladder match, Zack Ryder, that thing was pretty cool. But one of the high points for me, I love the Jericho Styles match. I thought that was great. And I thought it was really cool to have The Rock. Sure, it was a 6-second match. Sure, the WWE were kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? We're up against something because obviously Rock has an insurance policy. He's a big time movie star now. But just seeing him in the wrestling gear, yes, the Wyatt family may have got buried, but again, they get another rub. And hopefully, they can turn the Wyatts around and make the Wyatts a big deal.
To me, it smacks of desperation that, let's get The Rock in here because we know people will pop for The Rock. It's like the guy's not been an active wrestler really for 10 years, and of course having Stone Cold come out, but it's the same thing. It's like you've got a problem with your product if the biggest pop you get for the night is for guys who haven't wrestled in that case 15 years. And as far as
it's not only that, it's become like this nostalgia thing, right? Like every WrestleMania, we now expect Rock to come back, Austin to come back. I didn't expect to see Shawn Michaels in his wrestling attire, or even Mick Foley to do anything physical in the ring. Like, it's now become a nostalgic act because we can't push the regular guys over.
Exactly.
We have to bury regular guys to get the legends over, and it's kind of a big mess.
It is. It is a big mess. And as far as getting Reigns for the heel turn, it's really simple. And they should have done it at WrestleMania when The Rock came out. Who should attack The Rock? Reigns.
Exactly.
It's like, oh my God, it's amazing that the simplest things that most wrestling fans know they should do, they're not bright enough to do. It's whatever. Anyway, enough of the WWE. We will move on to the actual sport, the lovely sport of baseball. So we're just in the first week. But what have been your biggest surprises so far, both on the plus and the negative, and maybe the sideways?
His name is Trevor Story. I mean, that guy is on fire right now. Remember last year, the Rockies swapping shortstop with the Jays, Tulowitzki coming, north of the border, the right side of the border. A little heel action for you guys there. And then Jose Reyes going to your side of the border where he belongs. And then Jose getting himself in a bit of a trouble in the off season. Story comes up, goes through spring training. The guy had a great minor league career, and now he's just on fire right now. And I think the thumbs up, thumbs down. The thumbs down is the stupid slide rule. Ending the Jays game earlier this week. I totally think it was the wrong decision to call the double play. I think it was Batista, yes, his arm touched Logan Forsythe, absolutely. Batista should have been called out. There's no guarantee that, even if Batista doesn't make contact with Forsythe, that Forsythe gets that, double play turn onto first base to get the double play. Because how many times have we seen a second baseman throw the ball away? It's baseball. You're not Nostradamus or anything. 98% of the time. Absolutely, that throw is going to be made, but you don't always know that. You can't make that call. So, and again, officiating, umpiring, takes center stage again, and there's no accountability for these guys to get it right. Again, as usual, what a shock. And, it's going to be a long season, guys. So, I mean, until things get corrected, you're going to see replays. You're going to see these stupid new rules, take effect, and guys get frustrated. And, it's not the baseball that we all grew up and loved. It's slowly but surely turning into something different.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And Trevor Story's only on a 243 homer pace. I think that's definitely doable at this point. So, just joking, obviously.
At least 85. He'll get there.
You mentioned the umpiring, and I've lived in Seattle, and so my favorite team growing up was the Dodgers, and my second favorite team, like 1B, is the Mariners. And so I was watching the Mariners, and I was watching Iwakuma pitch the other day, and I don't know if the umpire could actually see him throw the ball because they show it on the zone, and he walked a guy. It ended up being 4 balls and 1 strike. And they showed it on the zone. 4 of them were strikes. I mean, not even like on the edge, strikes. So how does Major League Baseball fix the umpiring? Because it's not just Iwakuma. You mentioned it. It's bad all across the board.
And is it me, or did we all of a sudden get an influx of a whole bunch of new umpires? I didn't hear of Vic Carapazza until last year. He is just terrible. He's up there. I don't know. And I mean, there's something that has to be done. Whether maybe you look at how many of your calls are overturned or how many replays you have to do a game. Just like the players are scored and held accountable to their statistics. Maybe somebody needs to go in and have some umpiring statistics. Whether you get the calls right, You know, your consistent strike zone percentage doesn't change, you know, to game 1 of a series to when you go back behind the plate for game 4 of a series. That's the only way to do it, really, because at the end of the day, it's their world, and the baseball players live in it. And like I said, you know, until somebody steps in and starts holding these guys accountable, you know, maybe, you know, we'll have that threat in their face. You know, if you're not going to be a consistent umpire, you know, you can go back to AAA and I can bring somebody else up. You know, you need that authority. And I got to wonder, too, I mean, if I was a player, I would want that in my CBA, umpire accountability, you know. And, you know, we're at a CBA year. It's coming up, you know. A lot of people haven't talked about it, but it should be a topic of conversation because, I mean, it's starting to become very frustrating, these new rules and the inconsistent officiating.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, actually, the CBA bringing that in, because it does affect, I mean, it could, you know, if you have a weird arm angle and umpires seem to not go your way, I mean, that definitely affects your career. I know that you're Canadian, and I am unfortunately stuck in Tennessee. You know, many days I wish I was a Canadian. So, but, you know, the Dodgers, Todd and I were talking earlier just about how great baseball is, and the Dodgers, of course, had an opening series where they outscored the Padres 25-0. And then the next game, the Padres, of course, score 13 runs and win the game, and the Dodgers lose 2 straight. And there's just been a lot of weird stuff. But just personally, what really made you become a baseball fan in the first place?
It's a great question, and I think just, you know, winters here absolutely suck. I mean, it's still been off and off snowing this weekend, and, you know, I think baseball season brings hope for a lot of us, you know, hope that we can put winter behind us. And I think for me is, you know, I kind of grew up right when the Jays were winning. You know, 92, 93, you know, I remember it, but I don't remember living it. You know, I was 7 years old at the time. But, you know, I think a lot of people fell in love, you know, with the fact that this team the Toronto Blue Jays, became competitive in the late 80s, early 90s. So I think that kind of drove my passion. You know, the other fact that made me become a baseball fan is I can't skate. So, what else am I going to play? The Raptors, you know, the basketball team didn't come until 1996, 95. So, I mean, yeah, it's just that, you know, you hope for a new year, right? Like you get 6 months of this. You get 6 months to, you know, see some special stuff happen. And there's a lot of Rogers Center takes a lot of crap for being a concrete, you know, stadium with the turf and. You know, and they're trying to fix that. You know, they got the new dirt infield, but I've never had a problem going to a Blue Jays game at Rogers Center. You know, it's something to do. If you never been down to Toronto to see a Jays game, I highly recommend checking it out. You know, it's something to do. It's something I look forward to. It's, you know, watching the Blue Jays and, you know, watching baseball in general. Just, you know, like I said, it brings new hope, a new season, I guess.
And it's in the Blue Jays. You're lucky enough to have
Todd,
a really good organization. Please do.
Todd, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yes, sir. Please do.
Because Brent brought up where the Blue Jays play. I'll say this: my wife is not a baseball fan, but she went to college in Ohio, and they actually her choral group actually sang opening the national anthem at the Blue Jays game. This has been, 15 years ago. But she's not a baseball fan, but she was still impressed by where the Blue Jays play. She was just like, man, it was an awesome place to sing. It was an awesome atmosphere to be in. So I guess if she had a baseball team to be a fan of, it would probably be Toronto, just because she thought the whole atmosphere surrounding the team in that stadium was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. You know, we're all passionate, right? Like, you know, I mean, it's Canada's team. It's a whole country behind one club.
And that makes a big difference too. And it's a really, really good organization. It's been a good organization for decades. So that you're certainly lucky in that aspect. Just a reminder, the gentleman who is lucky, the gentleman you're listening to, the one who is interesting, and not like myself and Lee, Brent Cardy at MLB Hot Corner. And you had talked about the new slide rule. And do you think partly it's not that officiating has gotten so bad in all sports? Baseball is probably the best of the abysmal officiating lately. maybe it's not that it's really gotten that bad, but technology is so good in how we see the games that now we know, like Lee was saying, those were 4 strikes. And 20 years ago, you wouldn't have known that necessarily. Do you think that's part of it, or is it really declined? And the flip side is, how soon will they use technology to really change that? Why don't they have, it sounds ridiculous, but why don't they have like something like Google Glass for the umpires so they can track the ball and they can see exactly, and they've got an overhead display, a heads-up display, there's the strike zone, exactly, and it'll bleep if they did that, they would need umpires, so that won't happen. But can technology reverse this trend of the apparent poor officiating?
They want to make all these different rules. I suggest maybe you do have some robot umpires, and it's not the first time that has been brought up. I just think, umpires have always been part of the game, and, umpires who have differing opinions of what's a strike and what's a ball and what's safe and what's out. And, the fans look forward to that manager-umpire interaction, if you guys know what I'm getting at. At the end of the day, like you said, 20 years ago that technology wasn't around. We still knew what a ball and a strike was. We still knew what umpire was being consistent and inconsistent. And I think, it's over the past few seasons, the inconsistency, I don't think it's because of technology. I just think it's because of inconsistency. Absolutely, you make a great point on technology. Absolutely. We can get furthermore, better camera angles, overhead, first base, third base, whatever you want. But, it all stems from, inconsistency. And having newer umpires, too. These newer Major League umpires, they're going to get a lot more respect in 20, 25 years, like Joe West and Jerry Meals and those guys, right? So, yeah, I suppose, you could go that route. You're changing home plate rules, you're changing sliding rules. The umpire, at some point, absolutely could become obsolete, but you're not going to see ejections. What are you going to see? A phone call to New York saying the robot got it wrong or the robot stopped working? I don't know.
As far as that sliding rule, it's I think we all understand the need for them changing the slide rule previous, because you don't want to see people taken out. And Utley, not to pick on your boy, Lee, but he wasn't your boy until last year. Already this season, he's sliding way inside of the base path to try to take out the catcher and reached out so he could touch home plate. And normally that would be the opposite thing. And so obviously that was a violation. But Bautista's was like, that was so, that to me that was sad. But if the rule is, this is the rule, and if they're consistent with it and they call it every time, the players will get used to it. But it does leave, you do lose something. I don't think it's to the point where players will be wearing dresses, although that would be kind of fun. But it does lose something when, there's going to be no home plate collisions anymore. There still can be, but they're going to be so much more rare than they used to be, and that should be part of the game. So hopefully next year they'll tweak it again and they'll look at it. You can't do anything about it this season because you can't be inconsistent with what they've already called. They've got to call it right down the letter as much as they possibly can, being humans. But hopefully they'll stick with that. To move on to off the field, White Sox, they've made kind of a splash. They're bringing in Chance the Rapper. They're trying to make the game more relevant to a new generation. He designed a new line of hats. Do you think that's going to pay off, or is this? Are they just envious of what's going on in Toronto with Drake and the Raptors, and this is just kind of noise?
I think it's noise, I'll be honest with you. On the field, the White Sox made some pretty solid additions. I thought Todd Frazier, and I think Brett Laurie up the middle is going to be good for them too. At the end of the day, they got to worry about what's on the field. Their pitching has been bugging them the past 3 years. My buddy Paul Ellerick from Baseball Hawk Corner, him and I, have discussed a couple times. Ventura needs to go. A lot of people like him, but they think it's time for a change. Obviously, you got Jose Abreu, and it's the American League now, right? It's not the American League East anymore. Everybody wants to go for it. Everybody wants to be a playoff team. Everybody thinks they're going to be in it. So, I mean, sure, you can have all the new hats, all the rappers, all the fun you want, but at the end of the day, they got to keep it between the lines. You know, they got to make sure their pitching is good, their organizational depth is good, and that's really what they should be focusing on. You know, I get it, entertaining for the fans. You know, but you want to compete, you want to win, you want to at least get a shot at that second wild card. You know, the division might be a little bit out of reach if you're a White Sox fan this year, but you want to be in that second wild card conversation.
And moving on to the Blue Jays, of course, they've had 3 straight games where they've had blown saves. Is that the biggest early concern for you as a follower of the Blue Jays, or is there something else?
Absolutely, there is, and I'm just waiting to hear the cries for Aaron Sanchez to go in the bullpen. The thing about Aaron Sanchez, you know, Sanchez started out last year as a starter, had some issues, started locking it down, got an injury, went to the bullpen, and you know, along with the additions of Price, Tulowitzki, Lowe, etc., things kind of started to settle down for the Jays. They took the East. We all know what happened from there. Here we are again, start of the season. Aaron Sanchez in the starting rotation. You get Drew Storen from Washington, who's, I got to admit, I didn't love it, but I understood the trade. You know, he turned it around second half of last year, became the closer again. He's 28 years old. Washington took a lot of the contract, which is great. However, I don't like the inconsistency I've seen from him so far. Roberto Ozuna has locked it down in the 9th. I have no issues with that. But, I mean, it's that 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. 7th and 8th that, you know, just need to be better. Brett Cecil and Storen have to be better, because if they're not, then this team's going to be in trouble, because they don't want to put Sanchez in the bullpen if they don't have to. Aaron Sanchez needs to at least hit 150 innings this year, else he's going to be destined to be a reliever for the rest of his career, you know. So there is that, and yeah, the bullpen, absolutely, Lee is a huge concern for a lot of us. But again, I mean, it is early, you know, despite the fact, you know, whether we think this team should be 5-0 or not, they'll lock it down, or, you know, they'll figure it out one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. No reason to panic when it's 5 games into the season, that's for sure. Todd and I were talking about that earlier, and it's like, the only reason to panic is if you're the Phillies and you're 0-4 because your team sucks anyway. So, but, you know, if someone like Josh Donaldson or Batista were to go down, do you think the Blue Jays have the depth to overcome that, or something in their farm system?
Yeah, I mean, if Donaldson goes down, you can bring up Matt Dominguez to hang around for the DL stint. And if Batista goes down, there's Dalton Pompey, there's Daryl Siciliani. There's those guys to come up. If Edwin Encarnacion gets injured, you can run Smokey Colabello out there every day till Edwin comes back. God forbid if anything happened to Russell Martin. I mean, you could bring up AJ Jimenez. You can bring up that Sanchez, Tony Sanchez. So, I mean, again, you have options, right? And, you know, as long as they're 15-day DL stints, it's fine. If it's something longer than that, you know, you might want to figure something else out, make some alternative options, seek a trade, yada, yada, yada. But, I mean, for 15-day DL stints, which they usually are, Donaldson, Martin, Batista, they can withstand it, but, you know, hopefully it doesn't have to get to that.
Brent, we have a trade agreement with Canada. I mean, best neighbor status. I'm not sure that the phrase yada, yada, yada is cleared for use by Canadians, though, so we might want to review that. Which team in the East worries you the most?
The Boston Red Sox. David Price, healthy Hanley Ramirez, Sandoval, Brock Holt, who's just a pesky hitter. I mean, that guy just finds a way to get on base and tear apart the Jays. Yeah, the Red Sox. Kimbrel's in the bullpen for them now, and, I mean, that is scary. You know, last year they didn't have that. They didn't have frontline starting pitching. You know, you give the Red Sox another year for all these prospects, Bogarts, Betts, Jackie Bradley to get better. I mean, it's going to be a competitive division already, but when the Red Sox are better, The Orioles are, they're 4-0 right now, and the Yankees and Rays are always going to be in that conversation. I mean, it's a 5-team race. It's a 5-team race until, somebody either pulls away with it or until it's game 162.
True, and it's a little different from the Central, but it is shaping up a lot like the AL East has been many times, where it's like you said, it's a 5-team race, which makes it fun. Considering
Absolutely.
that, though, how confident are you that your team's going to make this actually, and won't make it, but they'll win the World Series?
How confident am I? I'm not that confident. I'm concerned that Mark Shapiro is going to pull the trigger on dismantling this team. That this team is just like last year, a couple games under 500. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a big Shapiro fan. I was really upset when Alex Anthopoulos left. But before, when this team wasn't doing so well, I was one of those people calling for Alex Anthopoulos to be fired. So I mean. There's something about Shapiro. He took a team over from John Hart, and then that team had the lowest ticket sales in all of Major League Baseball. So when I look at his history, I'm not excited. I like Ross Atkins. He's a smart baseball guy, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, he's just Shapiro's coffee man. Shapiro's calling the shots. So, I mean, yeah, I just really hope that they don't jump the gun. And that if somebody goes down, they're still in the 2016 all-in mode. Even if you try and trade Bautista and Encarnacion to playoff teams, if this team for some reason, God forbid, isn't in a playoff race, you're not going to get that much, much for them. Again, they're in their walk years. We'll see. But I'm not confident right now until that bullpen figures it out. I know it's Game 5, but I just got a bad feeling about Drew Storen. I don't know what it is, but hopefully it works itself out.
Well, hopefully your bad feelings are only that, bad feelings, not like precognition. So we both like the Blue Jays. They're not our favorite team, but it's a very cool organization, and with them
Todd's
having
a secret Blue Jays fan. He just doesn't know it
yet. You were on. You were terrific as always, Brent. Thanks so much for being on. Where can our 16,000 or maybe 16, whichever, listeners find you on the intertubes?
Google, SoundCloud, type in The Cardy Show, and you can find all the Cardy Show's great hits there. And we still have our greatest hits compilation on iTunes. And, of course, follow baseballhotcorner.com for great content every day, because it's what we do.
Awesome. That's how you do a plug. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Brent, you were fantastic, like Todd said, as always. We'd love to have you on again pretty soon. Whenever you can make it, we'd love to have you on.
All right, thanks, guys. All the best. Say hi to Teddy for me.
Yeah, I will. Have a great Saturday.
You too. Take care.
There you go. Hi, Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy. Teddy Ballgame. I don't know why we've never said that to him. Teddy Ballgame.
Because he's not deserving. He's not deserving. Maybe if we freeze his head, then we can call him Teddy Ballgame. That would be kind of fun. Oh, did I go there? No, you did go there. You started with Djibouti, so it's all downhill from
Djibouti.
Djibouti.
Teddy Ballgame, Djibouti. So it's a country on the eastern part of Africa. I didn't just make it up. Jesus. So a couple other things. We have just a few more minutes. DeBerkeshaw Ferguson of the Jets retired after 10 years. I did not realize this until yesterday, but he never missed a snap due to injury. Did you know that? At left tackle in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I knew that. And I didn't realize this, but he'd never missed a play except for one. They had a trick play, and they took out the offensive line because, let's see if this works. And, of course, it didn't. So that's ridiculous. And apparently from what he's saying, it's not due to injury concerns. It's just, which I'm sure it's got to be somewhere in the back of his mind, because he was quoted as saying he had gone to see the film Concussion, and it really opened his eyes and brought up a lot of questions. And so I'm sure that it was in the background of it. But he says it's just he felt his play had slipped some, and he didn't want to be a lesser player, so he's done, which more power to him. I mean, that's pretty awesome for someone to say, hey, you know what? I'm not as great as I used to be, and I'm not going to be some, hanger-on so I can make several more million. This is it. I'm done. And it's luckily for the Jets, he did it before the draft, so they can adjust accordingly. I'm sure they would have had even more notice, but from what various interviews that were on in the media, they had a really good idea. This wasn't just some bombshell out of nowhere. They had known for a couple of weeks this was a very serious consideration on his part. So, as a Dolphins fan, I am very happy to see Mr. Ferguson leave the league. So,
and you mentioned a lesser player. I mean, even a lesser person with CTE. So, there's that.
Seriously. Yeah, because we had another player, and his name escapes me off the top of my head, but a young linebacker for the Bills. I was like, well, okay, I'm done. I don't want to be, a shambling wreck of a human 10 years from now. So I'm finished, and we're just going to continue to see this, which it's weird. We've talked about it, and it's hard to know how the NFL can address it without just turning it into touch football. People are bigger, faster, they hit harder, and there's really, unless you start injecting silicone inside their skull case to keep their brain from going sploosh when it hits, not a lot they can do about that. So, strange, very strange situation.
Yeah, it is. It is. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the NFL. Over the years, maybe nothing will happen. I mean, it's an outlet for them to make money, and unfortunately. Not unfortunately that they make money, but unfortunately sometimes people need to go in that direction and to be able to make a living. And if they're born with that kind of talent, that's a way out for them. So, and that's really the reason, we don't probably have more of an outcry from players, because that's how they make their living.
Ooh, speaking of outcry from players, we didn't mention this yet. Bomani Jones and his shirt. Were you injured by his shirt? Did that hurt your feelings gravely? I think, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant on his part. There are a lot of people were upset about it, and it's like maybe you can go just that extra step and realize that's the point.
Right.
Someone wears a shirt that says Caucasian and you're offended. You're an idiot if you think Redskins is okay. And he,
exactly.
and he did it in the version of the Indians, which is, no one's really complaining that much about the Cleveland Indians logo. Well, the logo they are, because it's kind of cartoonish, but that's nowhere near the Redskins. Nowhere near the Redskins. And for all these people to be hurt in Djibouti about it is hilarious. It's like, you are stupid if you're upset about this. And you think the Redskins thing is okay. You're just a total moron. Because after all, he didn't come out there. Well, there's no epithet for white people that fits that I know of, but he didn't come out there with honky or cracker or something like that, which he should have. Mm-hmm. He just came out there with Caucasian. It's like, and people are upset. It's like, you're stupid.
Well, if they're upset about the picture, it's not something he came up with. That's what the Indians had for Chief Wahoo for years and years, and still.
Yeah, exactly. He just caucus. Would it be caucasoidified? He made it look like a white guy. Well, maybe the designer did.
It's still
it's a card.
Yeah, but it's still the same character.
Exactly. So. It's exactly the same character. They just made it a little paler because it's the Caucasians. So it's ridiculous for this people to not get the point.
Right. Although when he was on Mike and Mike and he wore the shirt, Mike Greenberg actually said
it just got weird.
So that was natural reaction to Greenberg. It totally made sense to me. So that is actually our show. Todd, do you have any final thoughts? What are you doing today? You having a beer? You drinking new beer?
I'm having a
doing
beer.
Anything fun?
I'm having a beer. I'm going to have a beer soon. I'm going to have a beer later. I may have a beer much later. I'll probably have 3 beers.
Okay. Well, that's not nearly enough beer, but okay. But we want to thank, of course, Brent Cardy again of the Cardy Show on MLB Baseball Hot Corner.com for being on. Brent's always great. Of course, thanks to everybody for listening. We have a Cinema Savants show on Monday. What's going on with that?
I don't know. What's going on with it? No, we'll have Dan Hudek, a South Florida film critic, will be on with us, and we will discuss movies.
What? Movies on a movie show? That's crazy. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Crazy.
The fans hoping to catch a little bit of the old-time religion right here, baby. With Junior stepping up to the plate. Here comes the stretch. And the pitch to Junior on the way. Swing and a fly ball hit to deep right center field. That baby is going to be fly away. The old-time religion lives. Junior does it. A 2-2